Hello, I'm Bradley Simpson and I'm here chatting with Milky. I didn't set out, even when I started music, when I was like 9, 10. I always loved bands and I wanted to be in a band. That was always my favourite thing. The idea of being like on the road and playing music with your friends was great. So I loved being in the band. It was never born out of being unhappy or wanting to, I don't know, just like go out by myself. But we had a bit of a break and I just started writing a couple of songs that felt a little bit too personal to either pitch to other artists or even for the band. So it kind of snowballed from there, really, and then I ended up writing the album, which has been about the past 13 years of my life and about growing up in a band and growing up in general in some ways. So it just ended up becoming like a really good moment to kind of decompress and look back over the past 13 years of my life. And I think in terms of how the band's prepared me for it, yeah, I feel very grateful that I've had 13 years of like live experience and getting to grips with touring, because I think coming in, there's so much appreciation I've got for solo artists now that I maybe didn't have before. Like I've got a lot of friends who are solo artists. It's definitely like you take so much more responsibility on within the band. There would be a lot of like delegation and we would share responsibility, whereas solo artists do, you take on all of that on your own shoulders, which is really fun. And another part of the reason I wanted to do it, because it was nice to challenge myself at this point. Like I wanted to put myself in a slightly uncomfortable situation. Yeah, the band has prepared me for a lot of that through the live and getting to tour in the way that we have over the past few years. I think it was just something that I put off. Like I didn't necessarily want to self-reflect or maybe didn't have time to, and it just felt like the right time to do that, and also something that I probably needed to do at some point. Otherwise I was just gonna like hit 40 and be like yeah, it's been really nice. And I think it was like, it's such a roller coaster for the past 13 years that taking a minute to think about how it's affected me and how like even it's affected my relationships and friendships and all of these things in a lot of ways really positively, and then also in ways of like, I always think of albums as chapters in my life, and it's a really good way to kind of close a chapter and start a new one, and that has felt like this album. It's kind of closed off a big chapter in my life, and hopefully I can take in to the next chapter the lessons that I've learned through that. So I think the biggest thing for me throughout the band, I was like a massive overthinker with a lot of stuff, and through writing the album I kind of delved into that a bit more, and I think was the biggest lesson that I learned was just to take a bit of pressure off yourself. But it's so easy to say in hindsight, and I think a lot of people go through that, do you know what I mean? Like you look back and you're like, I didn't enjoy that because I was so worried about this thing over here. So anyone who listens to the album who is maybe going through their panic years or similar experiences, that's what I want the takeaway to be, is like, stop worrying so much, you're going to be fine. Yeah, I think I knew I always wanted it to have a very organic feeling to it, so it's all like live drums and live instrumentation. There's a couple of songs, like you say, that feel like slight outliers. Like there's a song called Getting Clear that's a lot more kind of synth heavy, but it's still, they all feel related, they all feel like part of the same family. And I just started to dive back into bands that I grew up listening to. So I grew up listening to a lot more like Nirvana, Queens of the Stone Age, like a little bit more rocky stuff. And the song that really sparked like how I wanted the album to sound was a song called Cry at the Moon, which is the first single. And that one's like nothing that I'd done before in the context of the band. So I was like, this feels like me and like a 14-year-old Brad and what he listened to. So I think it was just diving back into that, and then it also opens up a whole new scope of writing, because I think there's like so many, I love pop sensibilities in writing. I think it's amazing, but also there's a huge part of alternative that I really love that I didn't get to dive into, which is like, yeah, using like instrumental hooks in the same way that you would as a pop melody. So there's like all of these different avenues that I was like able to experiment with a bit more. It's horrible No. It's like it's something that I've always like struggled with, to be honest. I think that was why it was nice in the band, because you're a little bit removed from it. Even if you write a really personal song, it's going out under the Vamps. So going into solo stuff, I was like, oh shit, this is just my name, which was really exciting but quite scary. But I felt like there had to be a lot of vulnerability in that and honesty. And the guy that I did the album with is a guy called Boots, and he's amazing. And honestly, like 50% of the album writing process was just sitting talking. It was like essentially a therapy session for 6 months. But he was essentially like, you've got to be honest, like you owe it to yourself and you owe it to your fans to kind of do something different and open up a side of yourself that you haven't done before. So, and then it's like really rewarding when people come up and they're like, this song really resonated with me because of this, and I'm like, oh, that's really nice, because it's a personal experience that is then taking on a new life. So it's been cool, but it's like, yeah, it's a battle. It's scary to put that out there. I would choose Always Like This, which is, yeah, I love that song. It's like, it's a bit more, it's probably the rockier end of the album. And I think that captures like the live show the best. Because I think the live show is just a slightly rockier version of the album. And again, like that song's about wanting to get out of a not the best situation and hoping that it's not always like that, and getting through to the other side of that. So I think lyrically it's fun. Well, not fun, but still. And then I would say Getting Clear as well. A lot of the songs on the album are about like, yeah, personal experiences or love or like those ups and downs, but Getting Clear was written towards the end. I was like, I'm kind of sick of writing about like these themes that I've been writing about, and Getting Clear is just essentially like a moment of realization and feeling comfortable in yourself and having a bit of clarity as to where you're going. So I think that's quite like an empowering song for anyone to listen to. So I would say that one second. And then third, I would say Carpet Burn, which was the single into the album. And that's like, yeah, it's just a love song essentially, and about falling in love. It feels like that was really the DNA for the whole album. So they would be my three. Live is like my favourite part of the whole thing, and I think it's like the best way to kind of showcase your music. Also because I can't do any TikTok dances, no one wants to see that, so I would much rather be on stage. It was the first time, like within the band, the drummer of the Vamps, Tristan, has always been very heavy on like the MD and the production side of the live show, and I would help him out, but I've MD'd all of my stuff, which has been a really fun and stressful thing to do. When people are like, okay, the gig's in a week, where's the set? And I'm at home sweating in my attic trying to figure it out. But it's really fun, and like the links between songs, and I think it's the same as when you're putting together an album track list. I'm like very conscious of how it flows lyrically, thematically and tempo wise, and you want it to feel like a journey. That album track list might not translate in the best way live, so it's like you rejig the set so it feels as impactful as possible and it makes sense, and then it's like links in between songs and creating moments. So it's a really, really fun part of the whole thing for me. I really enjoyed it, apart from the stress levels that came along with it. Yeah, it's definitely different. I think I'm playing a lot more guitar on my stuff, which I think has improved me as a musician, because I used to just get lazy and run around with a microphone and not play guitar. So it's nice to play a bit more guitar. We're a three-piece, so there's me and then there's Eleanor on drums, and for this run it's Joey in Australia and it's a guy called James in the UK. Joey actually engineered the whole album, and like, he's just a legend. Like the first day I walked into the studio, Joey's from Queens, and he's like just Queens wrapped up in a man. He's the best. And we just clicked, and James said he couldn't do the Australia run, and I FaceTimed Joey and I was like, are you free on these days? And he was like, yeah. I was like, have you ever been to Australia? And he was like, no. I was like, do you fancy coming and playing some gigs, and he was like, fuck it. so he's having the time of his life, and it's great to have him out here. But the 3-piece kind of means that you have to compensate for not having that extra musical element on stage. I think that's like, again, a challenge, but a fun one, because you have to figure out how do you use this one guitar and make it sound as big as possible. So all of those challenges are really fun. I think I've probably maybe got a bit more comfortable in myself, and the biggest thing throughout all of this is because I would always have the other boys to kind of as a sounding board for songs and other things. You kind of have you have to have a lot of courage in your convictions, and like the mantra that like me and Boots were saying is like, as long as we love it and I love it, I'm just like, past that, what will be. And I am really proud of this album, so I'm just happy that I got the chance to make it and have the experiences that we've had so far. But I think that's nice, and for a long time I was going into rooms with a lot of incredible songwriters who have been in the industry for years and have written these incredible songs, and obviously you get a bit of imposter syndrome and you're like, why am I here? But it's nice to kind of get to that point, to be like, actually I just want to do the best version of the thing that I can do. So it's nice to get there. Paolo Nutini, Arctic Monkeys, who else? It's like a real mixed bag, like Jamiroquai. I used to listen to loads of Jamiroquai and Stevie Wonder in the car, so it's all over the shop. Big fan of Rachel Chinariri. I think she's amazing. It'd be really fun to work together. And then I just did a collab with Neve Ella, who we just finished the UK tour together, and that was really, really fun. It's nice to work with, like, she's a friend as well. So it's cool to work with people that you get on with. Either the first Paolo Nutini album or the third, These Streets or Caustic Love. Caustic Love I loved because I think I was like 21 when it came out. And there was albums that like got me into music, but I remember at the time being like, this feels like such a beautifully put together album. And like that, like the flow of it is really lovely and the whole thing's cohesive. So I remember being like, this feels like a perfect album to me. I'd love to do a Wes Anderson film and just do a really quirky soundtrack. I feel like a Peaky Blinders score would be quite fun as well. And I'm from Birmingham, so I feel like, yeah, that'd be fun. No thoughts, just vibes going on up there. No, usually it's like, I think when I went to gigs when I was younger, like I loved artists who would be as engaged. Like even if you're in a huge room, they'd make it feel as small as possible. So I'm always like, how do I bring in as many people in the room as possible to feel like they're the only person in the room and make it feel like, as well as that, like a real community feel. So it's always like, how do I get them up and dancing as much as possible? Oh, I didn't watch Hannah Montana, so I'm going to go Miley Cyrus.
What was the
First song I learnt on guitar is Deep Purple, Smoke on the Water. That, and again, I'm saying Paolo a lot here, but Jenny Don't Be Hasty by Paolo Nutini. First concert was Jamiroquai. Best concert, I saw Arctic Monkeys headline Reading. Spice Girl. Late Spice. Casey Musgraves would be amazing. She's incredible. There's like the big ones that come to mind, like obviously like Beyonce and I think Ed Sheeran and these people who are like amazing at reinventing themselves but like maintaining authenticity. And I think that's like I think it's awesome when you see an artist reinvent what they were maybe famous for or known for And I think that kind of instills confidence in other musicians to be like, I can try stuff and I'm not going to get pigeonholed. I'm going to go beyond the realms of what I'm known for. And I think that has a really positive effect. Drink more water. There's a book called Ikigai, which is amazing. And it's Ikigai is like, I'm going to absolutely butcher the meaning of this, but it's essentially about like finding your purpose and the importance of it. And it's a lot about Japanese culture. And yeah, it's very, very good. Lynyrd Skynyrd, Freebird. I got a AC/DC Live at Donington DVD when I was 9 or 10, and it was unreal, and it made me want to be in a band. That's really hard. Imagine work. No, I think it's everything. It's like, it's a very safe space, so it can make you feel good when you need to feel good. It can be a friend when you need it to be a friend.